Actually, can I? Yeah, I
As
can
I
do
have
it
said,
once.
but I weep at the.
Yeah.
Be safe.
Now let's worry about our other old man. Grey Rat, where are you at? There you are.
Ah, there you are. I was thinking.
Yes.
You know I'm a petty thief. Well, perhaps I'll go on the prowl.
Okay.
Everyone's dead or hollowed away anyway, right? So I might as well fetch some weapons or treasure for you.
Reasonable.
Well, what do you say?
Of course.
Thank you. You will not be disappointed. Grey Rat the Thief was once a well-known name. Until I ended up rotting in a cell.
Dur.
Grey Rat until...
Yeah, so he hasn't gone out yet. Yeah, so we got some drink, yeah. Nothing different
Goodbye,
yet.
Deuce.
We'll see when he comes back. What do we want to save up for? Yes. Alright, Granny, what do you got? I saw some great fan art, actually, the other day, where someone actually, I think it was a Japanese artist, if I recall correctly, and they drew all the different characters, and like Shrine Handmaid was written in English, but for the Japanese text, they just wrote Obachan, for which means like it's like an affectionate way to say grandmother, and I found it very heartwarming. Alrighty. What do we want? Oh right, I gotta.
Gracious, passing fine ash.
Oh wait. Before we do that. First.
Ashen one. If my way bring me with ash, is it not a?
Okay, yeah. So I skip through that, but basically we get this idea that the woman isn't just grave robbing for grave robbing's sake. It seems that she's trying to find more stuff to sell with her grave robbing, and the best way to get more of that stuff is through this ash. We see now again, like earlier we saw with the wyvern in a previous stream, stuff is kind of, when they die, they're just turning to ash. They're not just becoming rotting corpses. This ash we can bring to her, and she's able to do some ritual stuff that's able to derive items from it, similar to how we see our buddy Ludleth over there derive weapons from souls. So it's like, okay, she's able to essentially take these, she's able to seemingly take the souls within the ashes and be able to sort of create anew, and these are obviously tells us a lot about the characters who had these, who these ashes belong to. It's also a great way in order for her to get merchants to still sell their wares even after we kill them. And then, perhaps most importantly, what we're seeing here is that it sort of characterizes that the handmaid is someone who is extremely skilled in a very specific set of magic, along with everything else. Tells us that there's a lot more to this woman than meets the eye as this little dingy old lady. And now that we have the Mortician's Ashes... Right, we get some stuff here. Where's the key? This will take us to the sewer. We will have this. We want to worry about this. I think I might save up for that, and... we might do the key another stream, because I don't want to get Arena right off the bat.
Ashen one.
Alright. No Irina, so... I still don't know if I want to keep these. I don't really need the weapons and stuff for these playthroughs, so... no, this is going to be enough, so... we'll wait. We'll see how that plays out. Anything we got from you?
Ooh, yet to give in, eh? Good. The Firekeeper must be twitching with delight.
Oh, I hope so.
What do you really know about these Lords of Cinder? These supposed legends?
More than you, I can tell you.
Let's take Aldrich for one. A right and proper cleric. Only he developed a habit of devouring men. He ate so many that he bloated like a drowned pig, then softened into sludge. So they stuck him in the Cathedral of the Deep, and they made him a Lord of Cinder, not for virtue, but for might. — such as a lord, I suppose. But here I ask, do we have a sodding chance?
Alright, so this is our Road of Sacrifices info. This is obviously giving us the first foreshadowing for Aldrich. They call him a right and proper cleric. The Japanese doesn't go that creative compared to the localization. They just acknowledge that he is in fact a cleric. But yeah, he has this man-eating habit, which makes you wonder, okay, how the hell is a clergy of the church, you know, for all the corruption that we've seen in the Way of White and other religious institutions, cannibalism? Really? Well, we're obviously going to figure that out as we head to Irithyll. But the important point, of course, is that Aldrich apparently has eaten so much compared to cannibals that we've seen in past games that he actually just kind of fell apart. And there's a lot more to that, of course, with sort of the specifics, the specific metaphysics going on with his body and soul. But suffice to say, it gives us an idea that this is perhaps one of the most depraved characters that we've ever experienced in a Souls game. And then when we get to the last bit, he's been stuck or imprisoned in the Cathedral of the Deep. So this idea of, okay, we're heading to the place that this guy's associated with for Farron, but there's also, of course, this church down the Road of Sacrifices, which Undead Settlement's kind of building us up to. It's like, okay, we see like church architecture and stuff. There's been this investment in the Undead Settlement. The evangelists are all there, and it's leading us to this endpoint that there's like, okay, there's supposed to be this very big important story beat here. And of course, they're finally tying it into the Lord of Cinders again, is that these are all supposed to be these powerful characters. They're not necessarily morally upright people. So the idea that we're supposed to kind of go in and be like, hey, can you please like come back? And if you don't want to, we can always like do this by force. And it's like, yeah, what are they expecting from like a bunch of failed Ash? We couldn't even be lords ourselves, so how are we supposed to defeat them? Yes, so there is a theme going on here in that one of the points it's something that Dark Souls 3 doesn't focus on as heavily, but it's something that Dark Souls 2 obviously sort of made its signature. Like that game has so much vacuum to it that it had basically two ideas. One is that how everything changes with time, and what is a king. And one of the points being made here is that the Lords of Cinder, in lieu of what Dark Souls 2 establishes, a king isn't someone where, oh, you're born, like, it's because of the circumstances of your birth, or it's because, you know, that you had this special capacity to it. The fact of the matter is, you had the power, you were in the position to control the world, to control not just your fate, but the fate of others. So, the idea is that the true king, the true pinnacle, the quintessence of a king is the Lord of Cinder, or the Lord of the Dark Lord, this king of kindling who is able to decide the fate of the universe. And what's obviously what Hawkwood's alluding to is, of course, the idea of none of these kings are people who have anything necessarily that you would associate with, say, the wise noble king of medieval philosophy. It's the idea of like, this isn't the philosophical king, it's the king of power, the tyrant who rules. Might makes right. So, very nice connection point being alluded to here. Same thing with the thrones, obviously, because the idea is the throne is the seat of the king, and what is seen, obviously Dark Souls 2 sort of takes it to a whole new level, but the idea that the seat, when you are in the position of a king, you are able to see things in a different light, in a new way, but it also comes with this royal duty that you have to attend to with it. You know, as we say in English, heavy is the head that bears the crown. So, unfortunately, the only one who actually sticks to his royal duty is Ludleth. So that's why the premise of this game exists. Now, I don't think I've gone on record saying this straight up before, but I am fairly critical of the premise of this game. Just, generally I'm very positive about Dark Souls 3, but specifically this premise is, I find, a little more contrived compared to Dark Souls 1 at least. So, it's something that's like, feels like it's really forced to try to recreate the formula that worked in Dark Souls 1 much more naturally, I think. Anyway, we've now discussed this long enough. Let's move right along. Actually, yeah, let's move right along. Hey, Scanty. Welcome in. let's see. Firelink Shrine. Road of Sacrifices. We're going to have a lot of fun on this one because I actually really like the Road of Sacrifices area. Now, it's not like a very major area. It's in many ways supposed to be like a connecting point between other areas. I guess similar to how Shaded Woods functions in Dark Souls 2. But what I like is how it brings a bunch of different elements together in a very natural way. So, we've just exited from the church, from the Undead Settlement. We're going from the Undead Town all the way over to the Cathedral of the Deep along this road. Or we can take a detour into Faron, our choice. Now, right away, we get our first look at the Corvians. Now, the Corvians is a localization term, which more literally is a crowman. This is the naming scheme for most beastmen in the Soul series. This is also the same term used in Dark Souls 1 for what the localization in that game called the Crow Demons. So these are basically the same species, at least presumably, when you first encounter them. You also get this idea that they are... Oh! Whoa, buddy. Calm down. Listen. I did nothing. Being facetious. Oh, okay. I can't detect sarcasm for the life of me, so sorry, Teen Sith. Now, as I was saying, as we can see here with these guys, they are very scared, they're afraid. If people recall the idea of the painting world, and something Abyssal Archive will go into more detail about, is that the Ariamis painting world was a place where those who didn't have a place to belong in the outside could find a place to belong. It was very much a meta. It was as much a literal commentary as a meta commentary on Miyazaki's part regarding all the what's the word? The stuff that he couldn't fit into the main game of Dark Souls, and so he's like, okay, we'll take the prototype level and we'll make it into this thing called the painting world, and then we can stuff all that stuff there. Now, what's really kind of neat is how he builds on it here to kind of be like, okay, well, what's going on with that painting world that I kind of kept as like a meta level? What's going on with it right now? And we get the first idea of like, okay, well, there's this carriage here, much like the ones we see in the Undead Settlement, that's been tipped over. It seems to suffer again to the various seismic activity. It's become derailed and all that. No horses in sight again. And we're seeing that instead of the hollows that we saw earlier outside the town, waiting at the entrance for entrance, we have these crowmen, and they're being administered by this preacher over there, who's sort of like giving them the good word, these heretical legends. Now, we learn that these legends specifically discuss the tale of Priscilla, the idea that there's this undesirable, this detested being, abomination as the localization Dark Souls 1 calls it. Dark Souls 3 calls it the Forlorn. Different from the Forlorn in Dark Souls 2. And the idea is that these forlorn souls can, much like Priscilla, find their way into the cold painting where they'll find their place to belong that they can't. Because obviously these are hollows. Again, hollows, undead, they don't have a place to belong. They're just sort of used in various capacities or otherwise exiled and kept out of society. So this storyteller seems to have come through, sort of freed all these hollows and sort of said like, hey, here's the good word about where you can go if you convert to the ways of Velka. And well, here we are. Yeah, I talked about this, I think it was last stream or the stream before, but there's this strange habit in just Dark Souls where it's like, we can't show the horse corpses. Demon Souls, okay. Bloodborne, okay. Elden Ring, okay. No, actually, do we actually see an Elden Ring? No, I don't think it's an Elden Ring, except for maybe, like, Radahn's horse, but technically you don't see that horse dead. So, like, I don't know what it is that Dark Souls and now Elden Ring, that they decided that was going to be a thing, but whatever. Anyway, we got our spooky boy. Oh, there goes his pieces. They transform when they... There we go, Shriving Stone. We also see, of course, the idea of the Shriving Stone associated with them. Now, most stones don't have this type of association, but we have this idea that it's a husk, and it's sort of like shedding your, like the way an insect might, like, when it molds or something, and it, like, sheds its old exoskeleton. We have the same idea here, where this is a stone that sort of empties out and sort of sheds their humanity to become these crowmen out of their obsessive worship of Velka. Now, one of the things with how they act, of course, is that, well, they're all this timid, but they go berserk when you get close. They're just so afraid that they just kind of, like a cornered rat, they start going wild. Also, we, of course, as a result, see them transform, how radical the transformation can be, as they go berserk. There we go. Don't want to fall down there. But there's something over there. There's our carriage. So these bodies, much like the ones being brought into the undead settlement, are being brought along the road of sacrifices to presumably be sacrifices. So we have travelers coming through here. We also start seeing a lot more traveler souls from this point onward. Obviously, travelers along a road is not unusual, so... Yeah, I hear you. Notice also the scythe that this one uses. Obviously, huge association with Priscilla. Now, this creature, unlike the others, has a staff with the sort of... Ooh, perfect. That's convenient. There we go. He has a staff that has these weird growths, and there's not only these poisonous spores. I think there's also maybe a fire attack that they can do with this weapon, but I may be misremembering. But it sort of ties into, of course, what we eventually see in the DLC. But it's interesting to show that these creatures come from when the painting world is already suffering from the rot. Now, to get a little history lesson here, this little cave down here on the underside of the cliff is supposed to be the den of this cannibal woman who, well, she's called a mad woman. The Japanese script refers to her in guides as Isabella. Now, Isabella here was apparently another mortician, as shown by her hat, and she was working at the undead settlement. But she suddenly discovered the absolute joy of eating human flesh, which we can presume came from her getting curious while doing her work and being like, oh, let me just have a nibble. You know, hey, when you're working with dissecting corpses, you know, to have all these spare parts and flesh you gotta deliver, you know, why not just have a bite? So, as a result, she's ended up being exiled because she's, based on her voluptuous body, that she's gotten quite her fill of corpses, and now she hunts just in the vicinity of this forest in order to get her new meals to survive. And as we can see, those people include brigands. Now, the term brigand in the Japanese is more specifically something like mountain bandit. So obviously this is a mountainous region, despite being very foresty. So it seems to be the idea that many such bandits would exist here. Oh. There we go. And dead. I'll take your butcher knife. We'll butcher no more. The Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't get that reference, unfortunately. Wah wah. Brigand twin daggers. So we got, again, example, she has all these brigands that she's brought in to eat. So, I guess, criminals killing criminals. Who would have thunk? It's also worth noting that they exile her instead of doing the execution stuff that we see in the undead settlement now. So it creates a huge delineation between how the townsfolk used to handle criminality versus how it handles it now. Now they go their extreme zealots for the evangelists, and everything they're trying to do is get rid of the pus. Yeah, die. And moving right along. Yeah, there's a bit of artistic license in there, Scanty. Obviously different artists, and Miyazaki obviously has a different vision. Because keep in mind, the idea here with these Corvians is that they are sort of they're trying to showcase the middle of the transformation, right? Like, the Corvians we see here, they have the crow-like features, like their feet and stuff. But before they go through the radical transformation with their wings, they still look mostly human. Or at least more human than not, compared to the ones in Dark Souls 1. So the idea is just that their transformation hasn't reached the same level. We do see, of course, the Corvians in the painting world are a little bit closer to the design that we see in Dark Souls 1, obviously less cartoony in comparison, because the game is obviously trying to... Obviously, it has more photorealistic graphics it has to take into account. But the general style for this game is, of course, okay, these are the more human ones. They're on their way to becoming the full Corvians you see in, say, the painting world of Ariandel. So, there's a bit of a process that Miyazaki wants to showcase for us. So, okay, how do we get from point A to point B? Alrighty. Oh, no, it's not this one, is it? It's over here. Gosh. Yes. Kill yourselves. Kill yourselves for Loki. Mwahahaha. Alright, so we got another cave here. This one, though, has a slightly different enemy. Now we got this one over here, which is very interesting for what we'll see later. Oh! Oh! Calm down, boyo. Actually, that was the wrong way. Oh, well. That hurts. Listen, I didn't want to do that, buddy. I had something to showcase. I will do it after I rest. Yes, it's preggers. I'll show that off more when we Yeah, it's actually very important to point this out. Now here's the hubby. You're the boyo, sorry. Now as we can see, these dogs took up residence from where Kareem Knight, like Aegon, we saw earlier, and a saint, like Irina. This book is used by storytellers of Kareem, so another saint of Kareem. And like I said last time, saint in this case specifically refers to a holy woman. It's a gendered term. It's not just referring to the same type of saint that Aldrich is described as. Aldrich is described as a holy person or holy man, more generic. Holy women in the Way of Light have a more specific role that we see versus, say, the holy men, which just seem to be general clergymen. You could also argue it's used to refer to particularly strong clergymen. We see something similar with how knights in the church are referred to as holy knights or paladins. I think the localization even keeps that consistent from Dark Souls 1 to 3, too. So, again, something just keeping all this terminology in mind. Now, the dogs seem to have moved in. You got one dog here, normal greyhound. We'll see more of those up ahead. And we've got another one which had a arrow in her butt. And she was preggers, but it wasn't normal preggers, and we'll see why. Critical levels of Oh, well, this was not the plan, but I didn't expect to have 0 Estus, so. You know, I should probably upgrade my flask. You know, I really should do that. Thank God this game has stupid levels of AI docility. actually curious, is this the same sound effect as the cleric piece? My memory might be shoddy, but it kind of reminds me of it. Oh no, there's actually, yeah, there's a cool little vignette that's the thing about Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls 3 really goes all in the little vignettes. You'll find a lot of corpses where it's not just generic corpse came through here at some point, picked up this item or brought this item with him or her, and then died. Like, there's usually a lot more depth to a lot of these. And I cover this again on my website in my various posts, but that's the point of this Let's Play, to kind of show you guys in lifetime how the storytelling is done. Oh, darn it. That was way too early. Let's see if I can get to the pregnant dog before I lose patience with all these wonderful crowmen. The Corvians are, they're special, alright. I should have done this from the start. Much safer. Elden Ring stealth mechanics! Whee! But same old Souls backstab mechanics. Woo! Alright, now we're gonna... This is where I miss having all my stealth spells and stuff, but we'll get them back. Oh! Okay. Okay. Oh, that's not... That was a mistake and a half. Didn't switch my Estus. Darn. You know what? We're just gonna leave these people to die. I'm pretty sure this is safe. Not what I was wanting. Perfect. So only 3 with two-handed. Gotcha. Alright, so hubby failed. Oh! Come on, come over here. Come over here. Want to make sure. Come on, girly. Oh my. Now, as pointed out before, we see that this one's got some arrows stuck in her, or at least one in her back, and she's got a suspiciously maggoty-looking tumor in her belly. I wonder what that's all about. You can even see a little bit in the rest of the body. Huh. Very strange. So it looks like what we have is, again, the Knight of Karim, Saint of Karim, much like Aegon in Arena. They were just traveling along from Karim to come to Lothric. They ended up, like, camping out in this cave. Dogs come in. Maybe they were already here. Who knows? But they ended up killing them. And they're enjoying just denning in here. Now... hubby over here is a gray wolf. This one's not exactly as clear. I said gray wolf, gray breed of dog. May as well be a gray wolf. And then this one's got some maggots. So what's the story here? Well, we'll continue on. Thanks, buddy. Okay. Thanks, Horace.
Oh, hello. How do you do? I am Anri of Astora.
Yeah.
Unkindled like you. This is Horace, a friend and travelling companion. Are you too in search of the Lords of Cinder? We are well along the road of sacrifices. Below us is the Crucifixion Woods. Beyond the flooded woods lies Farron Keep, home of the Undead Legion. Further yet is the Cathedral of the Deep. We seek the Cathedral, home of the grim Aldrich. We may go our separate ways now, but we are both seekers of lords. The next time we cross paths, one may find the other in a time of need. May the flames guide your way.
All right, so Horace and Henri here. They're allegedly at least unkindled like us. They're on a path to find the lords, supposedly. And so they're saying, hey, we're heading to the cathedral to go get to Aldrich, because that's supposed to be where his home is. All right, so sounds good. They're blue sentinels, apparently, based on what Horace gives us. So they defend those who subscribe to the way of blue. We also see that Henri here is describes herself as from Astora, and she wears the armor, which is interesting because Andre no longer calls himself that. And supposedly Astora is destroyed, so, interesting bit of national pride she has there for a ruined nation. Continuing on. Now we find the lycanthrope hunters. We see how some of these residents here in the Faron woods have sharpened logs and turned them into these sharp little stakes with which to impale the so-called lycanthropes. Now keep in mind the term lycanthrope in Japanese means wolf possessed. This will become relevant as we continue onward. You see something similar in Bloodborne, where instead of saying wolf possessed, they use the term beast possessed or beast possessed soul. I think is one of the bosses how they localize it. So same idea though, is this idea that you have been quote unquote possessed by a wolf within you, right? And that's going to be a very relevant connotation going forward with this. We also see, of course, these gray dogs, which seem to be their pets here. So I think these gray dogs, if I recall correctly, are exclusively used in this area. We don't see any of the other breeds like we saw in Lothric. So shows that they have a preference for that breed. We also, of course, see how obsessive these hollows are with the hunting, that they're basically going on these patrols even so long. This is also where we first see these grave markers using a crescent moon as their image. Just sort of have that stapled across on them. Also, note the elevation drop. We went from here to how everything sort of flows downward all the way. Hey, buddy. There we go. And then it all ends up flowing to the bottom here where all the water collects. So you can imagine lots of rainstorms and stuff. It always flows down and ends up here where it forms a bog. Which by itself you're like, okay, well, it's just a bog. Well, this has much more significance to how a lot of stuff played out in this area. We'll see as we go forward. Oh, you're still alive. Oh. I can't hit worth of shit. We got some titanite. We don't want to go this way. We see these poison horn bugs from Dark Souls 2. These were supposed to be native to the Drain Lake area, so it's interesting, of course, to see them here in the Farron Woods. It's another example of stuff from what I call the New World in Dark Souls 2 coming to Lothric. Much like we saw earlier with Grey Rat selling various items connected to Drain Lake. No, I'm not a fan of giant crabs. Sorry. See, fish isn't exactly my thing, and, you know, I don't want to buy some crab, like, nah. Maybe in Elden Ring. I hear there's a good cook for crabs there. Nothing special about the poison horn bugs other than the fact they exist, unfortunately. It's like, oh yay, another poison enemy. And they're not even in the poison swamp area, which is particularly hilarious. I don't care. Yeah, we want this. This is a shield, if I recall correctly, Patches uses it. So so again, we have this, much like the brigands earlier, we have this idea of thieves living in these forests. Now the reason, of course, being is that nobody likes criminality in the city, so a lot of these thieves operate or reside outside of it. Much like how in like JRPGs you see like bandits hiding out in caves or on the side of roads and stuff like that. Yeah, of all the enemies, right? I mean, I guess it makes sense in terms of if you want to bring an enemy that you could easily like slap anywhere and make it believable, these enemies would probably fit the bill most. You know, just this wildlife that could exist in areas, especially poison areas. Just imagine them infesting the ecosystem. But yeah, it's like I would have liked the guys with the giant swishy bellies from Dark Souls 2 and Shaded Woods and stuff. I actually thought they were completely underutilized. Now, what do I want to get from this area next? Oh, Fading Soul, so. So I talked on the first stream about how we find lots of Fading Souls here, which the idea is that, okay, when you get deserted corpses and they're left around for a while, they're obviously not gaining any new souls through the act of living. So it's like, okay, those souls are gonna eventually sort of go out like a flame, and as they start fading, they become the very small Fading Souls. The fact that we find one of these around these monument little markers here, again, reinforce the idea these are grave markers. And we'll see this this little narrative trick used in other graveyard areas in the future. There's actually another one that they do in the same area, and hopefully we'll go that route. Oh yeah, the shadow enemies. Yeah, because they're already hollows in Dark Souls 2, so you can imagine if they got brought over with the drift, it would be, they could realistically, like, just be hiding out there, like, sticking in unseen places. But I think the idea is they want a lot of the enemies from Dark Souls 2 to become, what's the word? Sort of like, they were either all killed or wiped out if they were brought out just by virtue of, the way that the drift and everything works. So unless you were living in, like, a dedicated city or something, you basically had almost no chance out in the wild, when you're brought over into this unfamiliar place. And Marab being not ruined is interesting, is because at least one item description, in both, I think in English and Japanese, uses the, I definitely know for Japanese, but maybe I'm misremembering something on the English side. But it actually does use it, describe it in the past tense, but then the rest describe it in the present tense. So it's somewhat ambiguous what exactly Miyazaki's intention were. I like to believe that he's probably using it in the sense of past progressive. Like, okay, these he's talking about events that happened way back when with Mara, but these things are still happening. But it isn't neat that he didn't try to keep everything, like he didn't just copy paste all the descriptions. We see some copy pasting later to some disastrous results, so we'll get to that when we get to Karthus. Oh, sorry. I think we safely have 20k souls. So let's get our... Come on. There we go. Let's unlock patches. And check in with Grey Rat. Talk to you later. Oh, don't make me regret this, lady. Ooh, I can almost get the...
Ashen one.
Yeah. Grey Rat now, Grey Rat later. We'll do Grey Rat now. Oh, he's still out. Okay. Y'all! I've come to bargain. Draw out my strength.
Oh,
yeah, good boy. Not gonna be leveling up for a while, so... yeah, let's keep on with strength. Crystal Sage is gonna melt.
Safe.
There we go. God, I love the music for this area. I can't think of a bad track, though, for the hub worlds in Souls games. I think they're all pretty great. They fit their respective game just perfectly. Got another deserted corpse here. Let's open up that ladder. Anything we want. Yeah, there's nothing here, right? So. Oh. No, we already got the items and stuff here. Again, another example of stuff that apparently got brought over with parts of Drang Lake, ended up having a bad time, though, clearly. Yeah, okay, sure. I'll take that hitbox. Alright, they're back there. Right. Oh. Twinkling, pretty standard. that one was essentially useless. I'd like to imagine the one from that would have grown at least a bit since Dark Souls 2, though. So I like to assume it's just another surviving giant that, kind of lived a little bit in this area, but even he eventually died and started growing like the others. Do we get all the items here? Yes, I think we did. Inside. Ooh. Oh. Alright, you all can point and laugh. There was no reason for me to fall like that. That was just incompetence. Absolute incompetence. So embarrassing. And now we gotta wait for the old one to pass again. Come on, buddy, go to the remake. Too excited for pickle pea. No, it's for pump-a-rum. Wednesdays do be like that. So true. Whoa. There we go. Yes, yes. Dramatic music. Yes, 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 yes. Pump-a-rum. Estes Shard. Oh yeah, I gotta upgrade that. Now, Abyssal Archive will actually discuss this, but the so-called Snuggly the Crow isn't actually a crow, she's a hawk. And in that same nature, we see that apparently this bird here isn't a crow either, or at least I've never heard of a crow with white feathers, so neat. Oh, okay, so, yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, oh my god, shut up. So annoying! There we go. Gotta be careful. And screenshot? Just in case. Yes, 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 blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so I don't know what species they were going for. It's obviously a reused asset for stuff in Lothric, but just worth just pointing out that all the crows are a lie. And then here what we have is, okay, so it's a shrine, right? It seems like your typical area where, okay, you have all these supports to help keep this whole dome and the rest of the building together. Yeah, it makes sense. And then it's like, okay, yeah, this is a wall. Cool. Wait. What? It's not a wall. What's going on here? Huh. That's strange. Why would someone put an illusory wall here, of all places? It's unsuspecting top of the building. Oh my, there's a drop. Huh. I can't really reach this part up here otherwise. That's weird. It's almost like someone wants to hide up here in order to keep an eye on this place every now and then. But who would want to be hiding out here in the middle of a shrine? Well, someone who owns a ring. Now, this ring has been associated with snakes, with the undead, with the dark in the past, with gluttony and greed, and of course with souls. Is it true that the name Snuggly isn't even in-game and it's fan-made? I wouldn't say it's fan-made. If I recall correctly, it is used by the official localization. I think Snuggly the Crow is there. In fact, you know what? Let me pull out the book and double-check. This is where having Archive of the Fire is very useful, because they do include both the English and the Japanese names here. with the dialogue. So let's see. If I remember correctly, this should be done by game order. Oh, Knight of Astora, da da da. I think Snuggly should be in here. God, Dark Souls 1 has so many characters. There it is. No, actually, okay, so the character is officially known as Hawk Girl, at least in this Archive of the Fire listed as the English name. So yeah, it's possible that Snuggly is fan-made completely. The more you know. Alright, continuing right along. So as I was saying, we've got a very curious ring here that's associated with undeath, greed, souls, the dark, snakes. Lots of stuff here. So it tells us that this is the type of person who's hiding out here. Who is that person? Well, I guess we're just going to have to wait until the story continues. Hint, it'll be part of my lawn door analysis in the future, though. And then we start having, Cirrus? Yeah, Cirrus come by here. Yeah.
I am Cirrus, of the Sunless Realms, former servant of the divinity. Duties we each bear, but I doubt we've much to gain. Blessing of...
Blah, blah, blah.
I doubt blessing of them.
Yeah, okay. So Cirrus is, she describes herself as from the Sunless Realms. The Japanese, though, doesn't use the term realms, plural, particularly. It just refers to her as her country as the country of Nightfall. So, again, Nightfall being the latest stages in Twilight. So the point being is that she's from a place where the sun is just about to set and the dark is of night is about to fully take over. So... interesting little illusion there. We see her dressed with silvers and blues, has this very feminine silhouette to it. Obviously, she's very polite. She refers to herself as a former servant of the gods, dressed like a knight as well. So, lots of stuff that ties that this country of Nightfall is probably referring to Irithyll. We, of course, also see she uses Dark Moon Talisman and stuff, which more or less confirms this with her being a Dark Moon Knight. She also, of course, refers to this nameless moon. Which, again, the identity for who will become clear as we progress through the story.
Just good, wasn't he?
Now let's see, reinforce Estes. Yeah, okay, we're done here. Yeah, that's still good. I might want to use the Brigand Axe at this point.
Like that.
Yeah. Is that really less, though, than what I got here? Huh. Okay, but it's with the upgrade, so... yeah, let's upgrade this a few times.
Just wasn't he?
Reinforce weapon... yeah, now it should be... alright. Now it should be more comparable. Yeah, okay. Few enemies that we want to not worry about. Is Pyromancy Boy here? Typical pyromancer, bringing in all his trash. So uncivilized. This is why we drove them to the swamp. Wait, I was driven to the swamp. Whatever. Final side note on Cirrus is, of course, the fact, why is she here? Seems odd for her to be coming to the shrine as well, but again, becomes clear as we move right along. Okay, so we want to go this way before we head into the academy. Ooh. Soul of an unknown traveler. Oh. Our first lycanthrope. Now, of course, interesting thing about these, quote, again, reminder, they're called, more literally, wolf-possessed. They were once human, but they've had these monstrous transformations on the extremities in particular. They're larger, stronger, sharp claws, ravenous teeth, more animal-like, and it's been clear that they've been crucified in an attempt to seemingly keep them alive but restrained. So it seems that our hunters didn't originally want to hunt them. It was a last resort. Now, as I was saying earlier, there would be another narrative trick to tie the grave markers here to that role and to make this forest seem more like a graveyard. We have, again, this is our second encounter with these giant ravenous crystal lizards. Again, these are formed by, instead of ingesting titanite, they accidentally ingest souls. Now, when they ingest titanite, that becomes part of their skin. It starts going through a crystallization process thanks to their unique body composition, and it starts forming the twinkling titanite, or as we see in this game, various gems, depending on the environment and other factors. Here, though, when they accidentally ingest souls, they instead become these giant, raging, hulking monstrosities. This is supposed to be rare, but now this is the second time that we find one of these giant lizards in what is apparently a graveyard, which makes sense because obviously graveyards underground, they've got lots of corpses with their souls left behind in them, so it's like, okay, you can believe that a titanite lizard might be burrowing through and, you know, every now and then accidentally eat up a little bit of soul that was left among the rocks that it's chewing through. Of course, we also see a Black Knight. Now, Black Knights can basically be justified anywhere. They are, of course, supposed to be these wandering phantoms in armor, so all that's left, much like us, the Black Knights were also burned by the first flame, and it turned them into nothing but ash. Their armor's fine, it just turned black. But hey, that's some good craftsmanship by the nameless blacksmith deity. Gotta admit. And now they just wander around aimlessly. We also just gathered a sellsword equipment. It's interesting to know that we see that the sellsword can also be one of our starting class. It has the shield of the White Dragon, which gives us the idea that this sellsword was originally a mercenary for Drangleic. In fact, rather recently, under the reign of King Osseros. So, again, we're seeing the... There we go, Farron Cole. Now, this is, of course, just connected to this area, but we see this idea that sellswords, after they're turning undead, presumably, considering they're coming to the Undead Legion's base, they're trying to come here and join up because, well, they've got nowhere else to go now that they're exiled. And it also gives us this, reinforces this idea that Lothric is, much like Boletaria and Demon Souls, a warring country, a very aggressive nation that's going out on these conquests. It needs mercenaries to help supplement its forces. It's also presumably the source of its slaves that we see. The undead of which seem to get sent to the undead settlement to help out there. So there's a lot of different factors going on in the Road of Sacrifices. Called sell sword, has swords, didn't sell them. Hey, he's got to defend himself with something. Now, the Japanese, of course, obviously doesn't line up with that exact terminology like in English, but yeah, same. They are supposed to be mercenaries. Whoop. Yeah, that's how dodge rolling works, sure. I know this is not going to work, but... Oh, of course. I rolled right into that. That one did not go as planned. Well, it's not the biggest deal if we don't get him. We'll worry about him later. In fact, I'm gonna skip most of you. Yes, yes, yes. There's the teleporting dog trick. Come on. Oh my gosh. Alright. Now, we've already gotten a taste of Farron Keep over on the edges. The perimeter wall, so to speak. But we still haven't gotten a solid idea about this building. Now, it's located outside the main keep, so there's some separation from it, but obviously it has the same architecture and is directly connected. We also, of course, see that the... whoop. Sorry to stun lock you to death, it had to be done. We also see, of course, that there are these crucifixes related to the hunters. So again, seems to be the idea that the hunters were operating out of here, or at least cooperating with whoever resided here. We see this pyre that someone set up before they got killed by the lycanthrope that just attacked us. Here's another one. Breed! It's always the greed. Oh, never mind. I can't believe I survived that. Anyway, so it looks like this poor sap decided to set a pyre, and we're just too late. Well, at least you got to die at your flame. Also got a little burn by it if the ember's any indication. Come on. Come on, glitches. It feels like they should be on fire, but they're not. There we go, another Estus shard. I can buy the other key now. So we're now going through a broken hole in the building, so this isn't supposed to be one of the normal entrances. But it will do for now. As we can see, much like the Lothric soldiers, we see a bunch of normal guys kind of hanging around here in despair. There's a patrol out as a lookout. We also see this apprentice here with a giant big hat and a staff where he's shooting very fast sorcery. So it seems like these apprentices are the advanced ones. The rest are these acolytes, are dressed in similar robes but clearly lesser. They also don't use sorcery. They use the weapons of warriors. So it seems like they haven't advanced in their studies yet. This together gives the sense that this place is an academy of sorts. An academy which locked itself in here to escape the lycanthrope threat outside, and basically all hollowed in despair. Obviously that comes with the implication that they, like the undead legion in nearby Farron Keep, are undead. They suffer the curse. Alrighty then. Now, it looks like somebody has collected a staff as part of their studies. This staff, of course, may be recognized as Beatrice's staff from Dark Souls 1, which is curious because Beatrice, again, was someone who was from the Darkroot forest. So, what is that doing here? Oh. Listen, mate, you decide to fall, not me. Now we're going into the second half of this facility. So this looks like it was mostly a rest area, almost like a dormitory. Again, we see these people here. Now these, despite having just these cruddy little half-broken shields, these enemies actually drop the white dragon shields, much like the ones in Lothric. So again, it gives us this association of not only Big Hat Logan, because of the apprentice's hats, but also Seath, because of, well, White Dragon. This is, of course, extremely important to us because Logan, at least if we let his questline continue, ends up becoming a fanatical follower of Seath, who finally acquires the powers of the god he's been chasing for so long. Blue bug pellets for magic stuff. Also gives us some foreshadowing for Irithel in this same region. Well, that didn't work out. Oh my god, it's so loud. Oh, of course. I have the worst timing. Well, I've gotten myself up into a real fine mess, huh? Oh, okay. Oh boy. Dang, I gotta keep rolling that, huh? Should not have two-handed for that last swing. Alright, finally, it's quiet. Now, as you may notice, this area seems to have been the library portion of this academy, or at least a type of study hall. We see more of the crucifixes that were being used, of course, to restrain the, or at least hope to restrain the lycanthropes. So again, it seems that the hunters outside, who are dressed in like plain civilian clothes, seem to have been staff, like general staff and custodians, and they were the ones tasked, or at least left to take up the beast hunting. As they were hunting the lycanthropes, the academics, being a bunch of bookworms, just sort of hid inside like little bitches. Now, the floor up top has collapsed a bit, so we know that there's another level that we can go up to. And what do you know? A lot of the books seem to be missing. So, were these bookshelves never filled out? Or did someone take out all the books? Well, as it would turn out, someone's been collecting all the books downstairs, as well as scrolls and anything else relevant for reading material. Interesting to note that he also took this moss-covered box. We only otherwise see this box in the Grand Archives, so it tells us that this academy has a connection to Lothric and its Grand Archives, of course, and we'll know the exact nature of that connection shortly. We find that Orbeck here has been doing all his studies on all the things that Farron has been collecting and researching.
Well, this is unexpected. What are you? This is my... If you haven't... How intriguing. Very well. Indeed, I am a sorcerer. However, much clearly, so you that in the full well. Very well. You're no. I am we will.
All right, so we basically convince Orbeck here that we will be, if he wants to help us out and leave his little makeshift little study corner here, which, you gotta admit, FromSoft put a lot of effort into making these resources kind of feel unique. Even created a chair out of this, these little grave markers. But anyway, the point is that, hey, we'll find you scrolls and stuff on your behalf because we're a big, tough warrior type that will want to learn sorcery. So you teach us sorceries and we'll get you more scrolls so you can learn new sorceries that you can then teach us. So it's a wonderful little relationship. Oh, I love his chair. Yeah. Yeah, I just like that little corner. It's one of those examples that show you how much Dark Souls 3 stepped up the environmental storytelling on just the micro level. Just a lot of little details like that. So again, as we can see, this place has seen better days. Orbeck's pecking through the ruins, and none of the hollows seem to care, because, well, they're hollows. Oh, well. Oh, okay. I don't care about you. I actually don't care about this situation either. We're gonna go this way. Again, much like the sellsword said earlier, we got a golden falcon shield, again associated with mercenaries. This time, of course, from the... Apparently, if I recall, they're now defunct, correct? Yeah, so the idea seems to be that these are no longer used, but other mercenaries take up the shield of the Bolgan Falcon Knights and sort of use them as their own little like good luck charm, because hey, those knights were so strong and they had this shield, so clearly us having it means that we're gonna survive too, right? Right? First look at the Farron followers, helping defend the graves and the entrance, of course, to the keep inside. Okay. I'll risk it. That's farther than I remember. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, we're gonna move bonfires. Crucifixion. Whoa. Yeah. Got some green blossoms here, so again, idea that they grow in the waterfronts. Again, some may recall that this was an item that was associated with Dark Root in Dark Souls 1 as well. Again, curious, we're finding lots of stuff associated with Dark Root in this Faron forest. Found the Sage's Ring, of course associated with the Crystal Sage, who we'll be encountering shortly. We also have Sorcerer Robes going to Vinheim. Now Vinheim is sort of developed from how it was in Dark Souls 1. Abyssal Archive will go into this a little bit, but it sort of reflects the actual history of Japanese schooling. And here we're getting to the point where so much time has passed in Vinheim that it's actually said, okay, instead of making our students have to wear their uniform even when they're not on school grounds, how about we let them have a little bit of free expression, take off their caps, go wear some robes and wear some thick boots in order to survive out in the wilderness, and just go out and do some independent research studies. And hey, if you come back with something good, lovely. Otherwise, it's a great way to help you graduate. As we can see, we have Orbeck, and of course we see this other Vinheim sorcerer who unfortunately ends up in a very unfortunate situation. He decided he would research Farron, but he's not as stealthy as Orbeck. Ends up dying with a lycanthrope. There we go. Is it here? No. There's a Ring of Sacrifice. Okay, no. Got a crystal gem, again, another thing which is associated with the crystal sages. Now, if I recall correctly, the Japanese text for this is different than how the English was, introduced to Lothric by the crystal sages, but I don't remember the exact specifics. It might just be that it didn't mention Lothric. I'll remember it for next stream, probably. What's the situation here? I think we can handle Crystal Sage. I think I can do it. First try. Easy. Sage is a pushover. Oh my god, activate! Holy hell. Well, this is not a good start. Dang it. Easy phase 2. Wait, now phase 2? Oh, okay, now phase 2. See, first try. Ay, ay, ay. Well, I know what I did wrong there. I picked the bad spot to start. Oh. There we go. I think I could probably pyromancy some of those clones, too, so we have less to worry about. Don't like running up to them. Bye-bye. And hello. Hello, Sage. Dang it, I saw that coming. There we go. Yeah, I actually do like it a lot as a boss track. It's a shame that the boss itself isn't as impressive. It's an interesting boss fight, at least. I just feel like it's missing something. Oh, of course. Yeah, blue pellets might have helped a little in that fight, but I'm not too concerned. I was able to do it by myself. So, we got this little sage, one of twins, who came from the Grand Archives out of a deal with Farron, and clearly Lothric acting as the middleman involved in this arrangement. Gets this nice big building to himself, helps teach in this academy, and as we see going up ahead, this arrangement that Lothric seems to have worked out with Farron seems to be in part to help facilitate the road of sacrifices, being that we follow the road to the academy, and then, as we see, the road continues after the academy. So the sage seems to have been used as sort of a point man to make sure that everything was properly working out and sending these sacrifices to the cathedral. So the sacrifices and whatever they were going to when this road was first established was sending people. Undead were sent from Lothric into the undead settlement. The evangelists would start filtering through them and say, okay, this one's a bearer, quote unquote, of the pus, implicitly. And so they're going to be sent off as a sacrifice to the cathedral. And then the Crystal Sage would take these sacrifices and be like, okay, checks out, everything's good, keep moving along, and then I can go back to doing my academic studies, which I care so much about. As we can see, the Sage got some independence by the fact that these buildings are separate from Farron Keep. So it's not just the... It's not just that the Sage is sort of defecting. The idea is that, okay, I've been working under Lothric's what's the word, patronage, and then now I'm able to kind of go out and be a little bit independent while helping these two other guys out. And hey, the Abyss Watchers got sorcerers out of the deal, so... Unfortunate that all the sorcerer Abyss Watchers seem to have become lycanthropes. Again, as we can see, we have a camp that's been set up by the evangelist here. She's got two of the town's manservants with her. Now, unlike the others we see in town, these have cages with corpses stacked in. So again, the idea is that they're bringing in more sacrifices on foot. Can't have them all come in alive, apparently. Okay. Yeah, I deserve that. Got greedy with the pyromancer. Should have done better. Now, let's try again. This time, we'll take the frontal approach. Oh. There we go. Don't want to worry about a bastard's curse. Interestingly, our camping evangelist seems to be responsible for the death of a herald over here. Now, the Way of White heralds seem to have become into vogue as a result of the wider landmass that the Way of White now has to cover. Because before it used to just be, okay, it's the Dark Souls 1 setting, we have our limits to what we can do. But as they learn, thanks to the events leading up to Dark Souls 2, there's now an entire new branches of followers with corrupted faiths. Corrupted, I mean in the case that the theology isn't remembered properly, not that it's like evil or anything. Well, I guess you can make some arguments on that front too. But the point is that the religions from Dark Souls 2 are offshoots of the original religions concerning the Anor Londo pantheon from Dark Souls 1, that the events of Dark Souls 2 led to them being isolated and twisted with age thanks to the fickleness of human memory. And now that everyone's kind of getting back connected together, the church has now sort of made a push to make sure that there are messengers that are equipped to go far and wide. And as we can see when we pick the messenger class, our herald comes with a basic shield that has the Drang Lake emblem on it. So again, gives us the idea of how far and wide these heralds will go. Oh. Okay, we're not risking it. There we go. Alright, so we're at the Cathedral of the Deep. Now, if you pay attention... Yes, I know, lady. Okay, that's a safe area. Okay. If you actually pay attention, the main entrance is over here, but we can't actually ascend that route. For reasons that we will become clear as we progress into that area. We can also see that there is this vagrant highwayman who has killed someone down there. Now, our highwayman will turn around and continue on his way up here as we progress. So let's worry more about the mountain bandit up there, that brigand. Before we grab him, though, it's also worth noting that this area with this giant rock wall leads up to... Yes, the place where you find the stuff related to Klimt. Now again, we have another item without a corpse connected to it, which tells us that this shield that we just picked up was just left here. Notice that the graves are very plain and somewhat kind of shoddy, you could argue. They're not the highest quality graves that we'll see going forward. But it gives us the idea that there's this small, simple graveyard that is set up with people who've been buried here. And this location right here at the edge of this architecture for this wall up ahead is very important to keep in mind. The shield itself is an Astoran, is a shield associated with Astora in Dark Souls 1. If people recall, we also see, of course, it again reflecting of Astora as this holy nation. It has reduces dark damage. So we have this idea that an Astoran knight is buried here. So once again, we have this case of Astorans outside of Astora who are dying and having their arms and weapons. In this case, someone left his shield here, I guess, to honor him. Or her. You never know. There we go. Who's the better with the brigand axe? Apparently you. You cheated with a knife. There's our other boy. There we go. Oh. Another throwing knife. Again, typical stuff that thieves use. Dang. Ooh, that got me good. Now, the brigand had the spider shield, much like in how these brigands are associated with them in Dark Souls 1. Our knight here didn't give us anything, but he wears the armor of a knight from an order which kind of broke up. Perhaps they were one of those conquests we mentioned earlier with Lothric. Either way, the knight order basically disbanded in the field during a rout. They all flew away. Obviously, with the dishonor, they ended up becoming highwaymen in these remote forest areas. And this one here seems to have just killed someone else. Let's see. First, I want to point out this nice little secret little corner. Get a good look at the Lothric castle and the entire city walls. Woo! Be going there soon. Look at all those flat trees going through that wall texture. Dark Souls 3, everybody. Ay, 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 ay. Now, what was our highwayman looting from our buddy here? Well, what do you know? It's the ashes of a paladin or holy knight. Now, this paladin... Wait, did I miss him? Yeah, there we go. This holy knight, he wanted to go to the Cathedral of the Deep. Now, the series say he paid quite a price for his headstrong justice. Now, the idea being is that he saw there were highwaymen on the road, and he's like, oh, I cannot allow these criminals to exist. I'm going to deal with them. Well, he didn't realize that one of those criminals he was dealing with was another knight, so it wasn't just this lowly bunch, it was someone with presumably comparable skills, and clearly outmatched him. So, he didn't do his due diligence. He just thought, I'm a holy knight, I have all these weapons. I am blessed by the gods. I believe so. Yeah, it's a Lloyd talisman. Alright, we're gonna actually reset this because we can. Because it'll come with no consequence. And something I want to show off, I said earlier how we had the gray dog breed. Now, you'll notice that there are all of these dogs with arrows in them. Much like our... Oh! Thanks, buddy. Much like our pregnant doggo that we saw down the road. Now these dogs, from what we can see, look to have been shot by these... They're arrows in the models, but it seems like they're supposed to be crossbow bolts. So the idea is, okay, these acolytes of the cathedral, these adherents, took these dogs out back and gave them the good old shotgun treatment. But of course we don't got shotguns, we got crossbow bolts with flame. Also note the flame, they want to get rid of something that requires fire. Much like we saw with the gravekeepers in the Cemetery of Ash, we can presume this has to deal with some kind of dark, whether the pus or something else. And as a result, these dogs were corrupted by it, so they were basically being taken out back and shot. Now, with all this in mind, we can take that our pregnant doggo was one of these dogs who was going to get shot before she got consumed by the corruption. But when that first bolt hit her behind, she ran off and managed to escape before getting finished off. As a result, she made her way all the way back down, where she met up with our gray dog, Buddo, among those other gray dogs which are helping the forest hunters. He was clearly smitten with her, runs off with her, and they elope. Lady and the Tramp kind of situation. And then, as we talked about earlier, they end up in that cave where that saint and knight were killed. Now, unfortunately for this little canine love story, the woman's corruption was still going to consume her. So we end up seeing that she still is basically guaranteed to die to maggoty goodness from the inside out. So, Dark Souls, everybody! Nice little vignette told here. From, backwards even. Oh. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Oh. Oh. Oh, okay. Ah, darn it, he moved. Alright, let's go this way. We dealt with the annoying ones. Oh. We don't need to worry about you. So I don't have to go through this area again. We got red bug pellets, much like what the evangelists were doling out to the people in the cathedral. Yeah, Scanty, it's a sad little story, but like I said, that's what I like about Dark Souls 3. It has a lot of little sad stories with very minor, forgettable NPCs, but it's there, and it's a nice little way to continue to build on the world in ways that Dark Souls 1 and 2 haven't gotten to yet. In some respects, I haven't Elden Ring too, because Elden Ring has bit of the Dark Souls 2 problem, where it's a little vacuous. In part, that's because of the open world. There's only so much detail you can put when you got so much ground to cover. Not gonna worry there. We'll talk more about the chapel next time, so let's just get the bonfire and move along.
Merciful goddess, mother of the forlorn, who have no place to call their own, please bear witness to our resolve. Fire for Ariandel. Fire for Ariandel. And the ash to kindle flame.
Alright, there you go. Again, we'll talk about this more next time. But keep in mind, this altar clearly wasn't always here. It used to worship these bozos. This clearly was supposed to be put in front of this statue here. And our buddy here is praying to this goddess of the forlorn. Yeah, we'll even pillage this again. We'll do this all next time. Let's finish up what we gotta do here. Because I didn't finish exploring the tower out back. Now, hopefully Grey Rats come back.
At the foot of Lothric Castle, an old path still runs below the tower in the undead settlement.
I know, I've been down it.
It was used to transport sacrifices to the Cathedral of the Deep.
Yes, I'm aware.
You should see where it leads.
I have.
If you've the stones for it.
Well, okay, maybe you got me there. I mean, have you heard my voice? There we go. Alright, buddy.
Oh, I will. Then shut there.
Ooh.
Then shall we bear?
Does anyone remember the stats for Black Knight Sword? I can't remember when I should stop. Or at least when I meet the requirements. Yeah, you know, we'll keep going Glass Cannon. Do I want anything from Yul? No.
Be safe.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. You've come at a good time. It took some prowling, but I finally made a score. Go on.
And some games they worship you like you're the best thing since sliced bread. Which I always find funny. It can never be something in between. You can never just be a normal guy. Either they love you or they hate you. Alright, so this is where Yol has expanded his wares after pillaging the undead settlement. So we see more stuff related to the settlement that's worth pointing out. Priest Chime So again, something that's used by Lothric priests, which tells us Lothric priests have been there. Pontiff Knight Shields. Very notable because tells us that Pontiff Knights have been in the settlement at one point, and that they were dead and that their stuff could be looted. Again, very interesting. Generic knight stuff, again, makes sense. One of our backgrounds is a generic knight. We can imagine them coming to the town for one reason or another, maybe ending up, again, into the unkindled mess. Assassins, again, you can imagine with Lothric and stuff, much like with the thieves wanting to stay out of the city and the urban areas where they could possibly run into some trouble. You've got these assassins who might come to the undead settlement because it's a seedier town where they might be able to obtain some things before they head off back into the castle to get their assassinating work done. Where is it? And you also have the Pontiff Knight curved sword. Now keep in mind, this is a curved sword which has been eaten away at by insects. As we recall, the evangelists actually cast these insects. Thanks to the gnaw or eat away miracle. So there's this idea already that, okay, there were Pontiff Knights from Irithyll in the undead settlement, much like, again, the Irithylian Outrider Knight. So the Outrider Knight has this, starts this perimeter. You got Pontiff Knights stationed in the settlement outside of the castle where more Outrider Knights are quarantining in that area. So it's like, okay, they then are being killed, much like the other clergymen from the Way of White and stuff, by the evangelists and the fanatical Cathedral adherents. So it's like, okay, it looks like that Sullivan had some Pontiff Knights to act as like these captain or commanders, because these Outrider Knights, obviously, they're going a little mad, and someone has to escort them back home. So they're sort of like here to be like, okay, we'll settle in this settlement as a point guard. We'll have this knight quarantine this town, so that way, much like Vort in the actual castle proper, no one's gonna escape, and we can keep this entire area locked down, and then we'll make our way back home. But then the evangelists come by and they're like, you know what, we want to be the clergyman in charge here, not you, and ends up killing them. So interesting little foreshadowing for a larger conflict we're gonna see much later on.
Goodbye. Oh, this place is a bore.
Yeah, you said about that already.
Just what?
Yeah, I love you, Andre, but... Yeah, okay. Cole?
Oh, my. This coal is from the Undead Legion.
Yeah, Grey Rat, at least,
Used
you
to
become a
forge
good
the
buddy
weapons
with,
of Farron's
naturally.
Abyss Watchers. A fine prize. I'm honored to be endued with it. Now I'll be equipped to infuse special gems. Praise the gods, eh? Time to put this brawn to use.
I disagree, Scanty. I think having a Pontiff Knight there would devalue them, because they're supposed to be fairly strong enemies at that point and pretty unique to where Irithyll is. I think having their weapons here and having the Outrider Knight sort of exist is good enough. It's not too in your face, but it's not too subtle either. It's not like it's like one like tiny little item and you have to kind of like make a giant case for them from that. It's like, okay, get a few from Grey Rat, you got the Outrider Knight, and then you're going to see the larger context of what's going on with Lothric, and it's all going to come together. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm with Teen Sith there. I think the Outrider Knight is enough combined with the items from Grey Rat. What do I want to spend my souls on? So let's get that key. Purchase the item. And then
Ashen one.
Yeah. Let's finish up our little excursion up top. Yeah, exactly. It would be a little weird to have like such a strong enemy. They have to nerf the enemy, at least stat wise, somewhat, so it could be reasonable. Because I'm pretty sure even if you like left it as like quote unquote a strong enemy, it might be too strong for when we encounter it at such a low level. Alrighty, let's have our fun. Now, as people may recall from the cinematic, there is a firekeeper. Well, there's a bell that rings that wakes up the Lords of Cinder and then later wakes us up. We hear it at the beginning of the game. This appears to be our bell ringer, a firekeeper. And not just any firekeeper. She gives us a firekeeper soul, but unlike the ones in Dark Souls 1, this one looks like it's been eaten away at. It's a lot more thinner and emaciated compared to the others. And as we can see, she apparently, this is a result of her having come back from the quote-unquote abyss and having used her corrupted soul that's being eaten away at to save someone who had the Dark Sigil. It would seem that this firekeeper, with her corrupted soul, decided to spend her last moments before it completely, well, killed her, ringing the bell to start the emergency system, which kicks off this game. Now, why the emergency system got kicked off was because the firelinking stopped. There was supposed to be a new lord, and the appointed lord did not show up. Again, the game hints at this right from the start as being Lothric with his throne. As we can see with our lady here, this was far more important in order to help preserve the Age of Fire than doing her normal duty as a firekeeper. And as we see, we've got a new firekeeper lined up ready to put on the mask and take over. So, it worked out. Yeah, I'm sure that Elden Ring, some of the subtlety that's you see in past games isn't as elegant, because there's so much with the game that has to be covered and things like that they gotta cover it and they gotta kind of make it. And they're like, okay, can we like tweak this here or there? Like at a certain point, I'm sure that Miyazaki's like, okay, it's good enough. I'll worry about this later when I do this thing, and then that just keeps going on. And he's like, oh well, gotta ship the game. All right, where is it? Oh. Huh. Or is it I have to be looking away the whole time? Huh. I guess Patches doesn't want to come play. You know what? I bet it's because I bet we triggered Sigurd at the Cathedral, so we now got to complete that portion of his quest line to get Patches to spawn. Ugh. Lame. Alright, so on account of the Abyss and Manus, no. The Abyss isn't really... The Abyss isn't just one thing. The Abyss is a concept. So, it's sort... and I don't mean, like, necessarily, like, it's completely abstract. I mean as in, like, in the same respect that I can be like, okay, there's an abyss in New Londo, and there's an abyss in Ulasil. Those are different abysses. Or there's the abyss that the Abyss Watchers go on, wherever they find the abyss in the, you know, the abstract, the general sense, they'll hunt it down and eliminate its threats. It's one of these things where there's not just one abyss. It's any sort of manifestation of the dark, especially with Dark Souls. Estus Ring. We'll talk about that when we get to Untended Graves. Oh. Fading Souls. So no patches this stream. Darn, I wanted to end on a high note. Okay, though, I think things turned out pretty well for this stream. I'm thinking that in the future, we're gonna maybe stick to this time. If that works for everyone else, I don't know. I've been kind of testing the waters, doing different times as I can make room for them. Whatever you guys think is best in the future, we'll keep playing it. But I think for now, this is a good one. And then next time we're going to be going to Road of Sacrifice, to Farron probably, or Cathedral. Depends on which direction I want to go. I kind of want to do Cathedral because I'm biased that way, but we'll see. And then as we continue onward, I'm thinking of maybe, depending on how we're going to go for Halloween, I may be trying to do some other games just so we can have some fun, so it's not just me playing through this. But again, thanks everyone for taking part, giving me a chance to play through this game again and catch up so I can get screenshots for the website again. It's really great to have all of you guys here with me. Helps me actually feel like I'm going through a fresh playthrough. This doesn't feel like, oh my god, it's my 5th time, it's such a chore. So thanks for that. Anyway, I think we're all good. Covered a lot of good stuff today. Decent time. Alrighty, so I think it's about time we close things up, okay? Thanks so much, guys. Have fun. Bye.